Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection because we're here because of these two gentlemen over in the UK. I'll get this damn pointing thing straight one of these days. Stephen and Simon Bray, Steven Reid, Simon Bray in the house alongside me. What's happening, gentlemen? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Pete. How's yourself? So I'll throw my phone away and I get
Good.
a
Doing good.
notification right as we start.
Yeah. So, I remark on it all the time when we were talking about it just a few minutes ago before we started taping. So if you look at Simon, he looks like he's got the sun is shining behind him and everything. Can anybody guess what time is it over in Lancashire?
7 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yes. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. But I'm always amazed because the time we usually tape these, it's like late afternoon my time and well into the evening their time. But you look at Simon, it's like he looks like he could be in New York here in the Hudson Valley, you know? So it's crazy. We'll see how it looks in an hour from now. So see that? The
We're
sun
going
is
to talk an
shining
hour about
in the
this, aren't we?
UK.
Oh, joy.
Oh, set the tone early, Simon. Set the tone early. Why
There
don't you?
we go. There we go.
It's what I do.
Well, today we are revisiting ranking classic songs, no, ranking songs on a classic album, ranking classic songs on an album, ranking the songs on a classic album. Yeah, that's it. Aerosmith rocks, Simon's favorite band, a classic album for sure. Maybe not in Simon's world, but certainly it is in mine. But before we get started on that, deconstructing this very, very fine album, Simon is going to tell us what he's drinking today.
Simon needs something to get through the next alleged hour. Uh, so Simon has gone once again to the Netherlands. He's gone for another of his La Trappe. There we go. Is the camera breweries? This is quadruple. This is 10 of your Earth%.
Quadruple. Wow. Woo.
Wow, anything to get through the Aerosmith show, Simon. Is that right?
Anything to get through. I've listened to it two or three
Pick the
times today.
strongest beer in his fridge to talk about rocks tonight. Look at that.
You know it makes sense.
Midway through the episode, he's going to be talking about how great this album is, and he can't wait to hear it again. He's going to be
I am so confident that I won't. But however, that is a good 4.5
wow.
out of 5. That is beautiful. That's very
Mm.
nice.
Could that be the highest ranked beer we've had yet on this show?
Could be. I noticed I didn't even put any stupid numbers in. Just one.
Oh,
No,
But
he's 4.5. Dead
you took
center.
that seriously.
Yeah.
That's the first shock of the night. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've done something that I've never done before. I've brought a substitute just in case.
Uh-oh. He's
Okay.
worried. He's worried.
Oh, yeah, I am because a few weeks ago, I showed a beer. I think it was a Chipotle beer by Wasted Degrees. It was excellent. And at the same time, I thought, oh, well, I've never seen the Unorthodox Stout before, also by Wasted Degrees. And I thought, Unorthodox, it's a stout, it's 5%. What can go wrong? The coffee cups all along the bottom that I didn't notice until right now is what could go very wrong because I don't like coffee. I can take a coffee-ish beer as long as it's coffee-ish. If it's the vaguest hint, I'm okay. And I poured this out and it looks fabulous in the glass. I mean, it looks
Oh,
absolutely fabulous.
yeah.
And smelt it and then thought, I don't know if I'm going to get all the way through this. So I've also brought, okay, Avalanche, first quenching pale ale by Fine Ales from Lochfine in Scotland. Um, this one's from Blair Athol, just up the road from me. So I really am quite wary because that really just smells like a cup of coffee. Yeah, right, okay. Let's see how we go. But the substitute may get called for in a little bit because that's profoundly coffee-ish.
A little too much, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that as you can already hear. That's maybe a step too far for me. I'm gonna have to sip it again to score it.
Sometimes I found with those stats that are a little high on the coffee, it takes at least 3 or 4 sips before you can even really truthfully decide if it's okay. Because some of them, they'll the first sip or two, it's really a lot of coffee, and then you'll get like a little caramelly, and it's not so bad. But I've had some where it just doesn't let up, and it's just like, yeah, it's a non-starter for
This
me as well.
this is bitter, bitter, bitter.
Oof.
Already
Yeah,
to my mouth. Yeah,
I'll be
I'm
switching that one
scoring
out
this.
momentarily.
Yeah, I'm scoring this about a 2.1 at the moment. I'm probably not going to finish this. And that does not happen very often. That's a rookie mistake. I should have looked more closely at the tin rather than go, oh, something different. It's just what I
Looks
did.
great in the glass, though. Looks great in the glass.
And you know, and to quote Chad, it's got a really good mouthfeel. It is a nice beer to drink. I'm just not enjoying the flavors at the moment. I will give it a little bit longer because who knows?
While
So
Steven's making up his mind on that one, I'm going to go to the Six Point Brewery Company in Brooklyn, New York, the city I was born in, one of the boroughs of New York City, and I'm going for a Stupor. I don't know why they call it that. Stupor Hazy IPA, 6.4%. Beer is culture, and it looks kind of like this. It's a summertime hazy IPA beer and New England style. Yeah, citrusy hops, it's got that kind of tropical thing. I mean, it's not anything outstanding or anything different than I've ever had before, but it's very drinkable. Good. I would say
doesn't look too hazy.
it's actually you're absolutely correct. It's not that hazy. It is it's slightly hazy, like you can kind of tell. You can't see my finger through it, but I've had much hazier than this. This is
Yeah,
actually not very hazy compared to others that I've had.
yeah, that's a good thing in my book, though.
Yeah, at 6.4, I've seen beers that are lighter in ABV than that are hazier than this. So this is, yeah, but it's good. It's solid. This is a very good brewery, Six Point in Brooklyn, New York. I will give this a 3.857. Solid stuff. Solid stuff. All right. Aerosmith rocks. Steven, you going to do the honors? A little bit of background?
Yes, absolutely. So this is Aerosmith Rocks. Okay, to go off at a tangent straight away. Before I really heard Aerosmith, maybe even before I heard Aerosmith at all, this album was always in the racks in the record shop. I always thought this was a cheap greatest hits because that covers. I know it's a classic album, and therefore it's become a classic cover and all that sort of stuff. But it just looked, and with rocks and the gems, I kind of thought, oh, it's the gems of their catalogue, isn't it? It's the
Good
rocks,
points. That's a really good point. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And I always looked at it and just thought, yeah, cheap greatest hits. Then I eventually bought the album and thought, no, actually, it's really a good album. It is
That
Simon.
that would have been a good album cover. That's pretty
Yes,
badass right there.
yes, indeed. So yes, this was released on the 3rd of May, 1976 through Columbia. It was Aerosmith's fourth album. It features the near ever present lineup of Steven Tyler on vocals, and on this album, some keyboards, harmonica, and a little bit of bass guitar. Joe Perry on guitar, and on this album, a little bit of bass, pedal steel, percussion, and vocals. They go to great lengths to tell you all this on the back of this album this time round. Obviously, Brad Whitford also on guitars, Tom Hamilton on bass and a little rhythm guitar, and Joey Kramer on drums and percussion. We also get Paul Prestopino, who plays banjo on Last Child. As you would expect for this era of Aerosmith, it was produced by Jack Douglas because he was kind of synonymous with the band for this period. In terms of sales performance, I find Aerosmith quite an interesting band in the sense that they were ginormous in a small kind of way because Rocks went quadruple platinum in the US. I mean, that's inarguably a ginormous album. And it went platinum in Canada. So it got to number 3 in the US, 14 in Canada, 45 in Australia, and 46 in Sweden. Now, this was the first album and first time that Aerosmith had charted anywhere in Europe. And that's the only place in Europe that it charted, which is a bit odd. And it was also the last time that they would chart anywhere in Europe until Permanent Vacation introduced them to the UK in 1987, and then Pump saw them explode worldwide 2 years later. So much so Aerosmith were ginormous. They were ginormous in a very small kind of way. So, just not everywhere. It's a bit unusual. In truth, prior to the kind of Run DMC team up that really relaunched them in general, I'm not sure I'd heard anything by Aerosmith in my life because they just didn't have much presence that I'm aware of here. Now, there were 3 singles released from this album. They were Last Child, which got to number 21 in the US and 26 in Canada, Back in the Saddle, which got to number 38 in the US and 68 in Canada, and Home Tonight, which struggled to number 71 in the US and number 82 in Canada. Interestingly, Dream On, which is obviously from the debut, was reissued just prior to anything from Rocks was released. It got to number 6 in the US, while Toys in the Attic was also reissued during the kind of promotional cycle for Rocks. It was, I think, there was 2 singles from Rocks came out, then Toys in the Attic, and it outperformed all of the singles from the album in the US, Canada, and it charted in Australia. So it's a kind of strange sort of mix of what's going on with this album. I mean, Toys in the Attic was ginormous, kind of launched them, and then Dream On exploded on its second or maybe even third release. And then it became a kind of promotion machine round about them, but it was about Rocks, but it's not all about Rocks. Quite clever in actual fact.
Really strange here in the US how Toys in the Attic was such a big album. I think, pretty much pushed by a couple singles that did really well on that album. And you would think that the follow-up would do as good, if not better, and is widely considered the classic album and better than Toys. But Rocks sold like what, half the amount, which is just doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah.
It's actually quadruple platinum, and I think that Toys in the Attic did 9.
Yeah, 9. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a big album, right? Toys,
it's an enormous album. Yes, absolutely. But again, it was a big album, hardly anywhere. It's a really strange thing because most US bands that went ginormous at that stage did have that kind of crossover. There was big bands that didn't, but ginormous bands did. And they're a ginormous band in the US at this stage. It's a funny thing.
I think it's indicative, though, of a lot of not to get off on a tangent, but I think if you look at like some of the other big American hard rock bands or heavy bands at the time, Aerosmith, Kiss, Ted Nugent, Heart, you could pick a couple of others. I don't think any of them, Kansas, Styx, I don't think really any of them replicated what they did here in the UK and Europe at that time.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment when you say those names, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we got 9 tracks on here. So we'll do what, 3, 3, and 3? 3 trips around?
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right, Simon, let's hear your bottom 3.
Yay. My bottom 3 is roughly all of them, but that's not important right now. We actually firmed this up. I've just gone through the emails on, I think, the 7th of March. That's when we absolutely decided that's when this is happening. So that's like April, 3 months ago, isn't it? I've listened to this roughly every day since because I'm a glutton for punishment. And I tried this little exercise on myself not long ago. I've got my list in front of me, and I thought, how many of these 9 mercifully short songs, although I'm about to say something about that in a minute, how many of these songs could I sing after listening to it for 3 months daily? And the answer is 2. Yeah. And those are not even my top 2. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I really should like Aerosmith.
Yeah, you should.
I really should like them a lot, and I don't. And I'm going to try and go through these tracks and vaguely explain why. My 9 is get the lead out.
Yep.
Yep.
The lyric is awful. Good looking, cooking. Okay, it's an absolute dirge. It really is. It does so little for. I quite like the opening riff, and there's not that much guitar on here that I really like. It's just really, oh, just it really genuinely does absolutely nothing for me. Hey, let's rhyme good looking with cooking, shall we? Fuck me. Didn't Hank Williams do that, 20 odd years before?
I think that's what he was looking for, really.
Well, I just can't, I'll try and explain more as we move along. Nobody's Fault is my 8, which is apparently a band favourite. Kind of begs the question why. Really dislike the squally guitar solo. Don't like that one little bit. No, just I can see they've already upset Peter. Well, let's see if I can upset him a bit more. Rats in the Cellar is my seven.
Oh, Jesus.
Right on a bike. Steven Tyler sounds like he's in a different room. Really. I don't like the production. I don't like the song. There's nothing at all about it that grabs me. And it goes on for over 4 meandering minutes. Oh,
You're giving Stephen an attack over here, Simon. You should
on an
Can't
album
be
that is
all about this is not good.
mercifully short. There's a couple of songs that I actually think, my God, it's still going on.
Excuse me.
I just can't. And I don't really know because I can see where they're groovy, I can see where they're funky. I don't hate the vocals by any stretch of the imagination. There's something about it that just doesn't grab me. There is no period of Aerosmith that grabs me. I don't like the 70s stuff. I really loathe the one with Run DMC. Can't stand that. And then when they suddenly became, Desmond Child's band, I just really, oh no. There's no period of Aerosmith that I like. And it is noticeable / important that Mrs. Simon, who doesn't buy CDs because Mrs. Simon doesn't like music, has an Aerosmith's greatest hits album. They're called 14 Big Ones or Big Ones for
Yeah,
Nar.
big ones,
There
yeah.
you go. So I genuinely apologize and I'm not taking the piss and I'm not being contrarian at this point. I just I just I just can't get into them. I just really can't. I don't know if it's because, in my mind when I'm listening to them, I'm seeing him swaying around like he's Mick Jagger or something like that, because we all know how much I like them. But I just can't. I just can't. I'm so sorry. Please don't direct the hate at me.
Well, to be fair to Simon, don't direct the hate at him. Direct it at me because he pleaded not to do this album because he doesn't like Aerosmith. And I was like, but we've never spoken Aerosmith on the show, and they're a great band and a classic band, and we really should cover them. So Simon acquiesced and agreed to get to know Rocks. Well, this is how he got to know it. So the fault is mine because he did say, I don't like them. So if anyone says in the comments, why is he talking about an album he doesn't like? That's my fault. Okay. So, as a complete aside, but it's all about the tangents tonight. This is a lovely looking CD version that I've got of Rocks here. Okay. This does just made me realize just how shit CDs were at the start. Okay. Because Simon started talking about lyrics, and I thought, oh, let's look at the lyrics in my book. Okay. So I've opened the front page, and the next page is this. So this is my nice price from CBS mid price compact disc catalog. And the next page, and literally in the CD booklet, I have a list of cheap CDs that were getting released at this point. I can tell you that there's a lovely element of the Neil
even
Diamond
you need
catalog.
this one, my friend.
Absolutely do. And it just goes on the middle pages, and then the next pages, and literally, I get to the end of my booklet, and it tells me who produced the album and various things, and all this information is already elsewhere here. So it's almost as bad as when I bought not Long Live Rock and Roll, but On Stage by Rainbow, and you open that and you can actually see the crease on the gatefold sleeve in the middle of my booklet, and you're like, wow. Anyway, my number nine.
Stephen, did you get your version of Rocks from Our Price or somewhere like that no longer
Oh,
exists?
there is a very strong chance that this was bought in the long departed Our Price in Perth. Can't tell you I did, but it's distinctly possible, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There were
absolutely.
so many records like that over here, American bands. There's loads of Toto albums that have that very self same insert, and I don't know why that is. Do you?
Funny that, isn't it? Yes, it must be the
Hmm.
same artist.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. My number nine is Home Tonight. There you go. I don't dislike anything on this album, but there are definite peaks for me. That are not troughs. There's nothing. I dislike nothing on this album the way Simon dislikes most of this album. But this feels like a bit like a Beatles knockoff, which Aerosmith were prone to do at times. And I know that Aerosmith have a reputation for being kind of the power ballad masters. Other than Dream On, I can pretty much live without any of the softies. And Home Tonight isn't really even one of the better ones, in my humble opinion. It's a little bit cloying, it's a little bit lumping. It just doesn't do very much for me. And for anyone that watched the recent Angra album ranking that Pete did with George, it does that strange thing of it closes an album, which is really upbeat. I mean, rocks for the most part. Hey, it rocks. See what he did there? And it is raucous and it is rebellious. And then they close it with a song that kind of goes. It's not a favourite of mine, put it that way. There you go. Number 8 is Get the Lead Out. Same again, this is one of the ones, maybe the only one on this album that feels a bit like a leftover. It feels like a kind of conglomeration of different Aerosmith songs. It feels like Aerosmith songs that I've heard from the earlier albums and that I'll also go on to hear again on some of the later albums. There are a few songs in the Aerosmith catalogue that actually sound like Get the Lead Out. There's just the same kind of structure and the same kind of idea. And this just feels like a leftover from Toys in the Attic for me. It's good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a little bit tired compared to the rest of the album more than anything else. Number 7 is Combination. Same again, there's nothing wrong with Combination. We're into territory that I really quite like now. That's a nice rocker. It's got kind of good feel, some smart guitar work, and it's just surrounded by tracks that are more memorable than this one for me more than anything else. But there's some great work behind the kit by Joey Kramer on this song, and I'm going to say that a lot as we go through this. What an underrated drummer that man is. He's never spoken about, he's never been the star in this band. I mean, they tried to force him out not all that long ago and kind of failed. I mean, there's almost a frantic shuffle in this song, and that's a complete double negative. That shouldn't make any sense as a thing. But he's got such feel and such groove, and he really kind of gets things going. But with a great deal of economy, he's never kind of, oh, and I really like that. He can do so much without feeling the need to cramp anyone's style. So that's my 7, 8, and 9.
My number 9 is Home Tonight. Yeah, not a big fan of this song. It's mellow and bluesy, and what a weird way to end the album. Just doesn't, it just, you have this high energy, groovy, raunchy album, and then bang, you put that on the end to take it out on like a limp note. You just, bands who have these high energy, raucous albums should never end on a softie, right, George? It's amazing how often we use that softie term now on the channel. See what you started, George? I know you're watching. I will say there's a pretty tasty guitar solo in this song. But for the most part, I'm not much of a fan. That's my number 9. My number 8 is Sick as a Dog. It's catchy, it's bluesy, I like it, but it was never one of my favorites on this album. I think I don't know. I find that there's a little more meat on some of the other tracks for me, but I do think it's a good song. Everybody loves it. I don't dislike it, but it's my number 8. And number 7, I'm going to go with Get the Let Out, which I agree what you're saying, Stephen. There are some musical themes and melodies in this song that you've heard elsewhere in the catalog and even later, right?
Yeah.
Which is really weird. When you really listen to Get the Let Out, you hear more recent stuff and like, wow, I've heard some of this before. But I still think it has a great groove to it. The riffs are raunchy, and I think it perfectly represents what Aerosmith were all about right around this time period. It's a good, solid song on a very good album. You throw Get the Let Out on the debut or any other one of the other albums, and it becomes one of the best songs on there because I think it's really good. Just on this album, it doesn't quite stand up to some of the other ones. So yeah, that's my 9, 8, and 7. Back to Simon. Oh, how's your new beer, by the way?
Well, I got roughly halfway through in quite a short space of time because I really tried here, and I've replaced it with something that's really so. I've kind of betwixt and between. I'm going to go. This is a solid 3.34396, and
Okay.
I'm mucking about with numbers now. So it tells you it's just that it's this is. Do you know my first taste? And I thought it was being hampered by this. I tasted it and I went. If somebody said, "What does beer taste like?" It tastes like that.
There
Do
you
you know
go.
what I mean? It's beer. It's very pleasant, but it's
Plain,
nothing.
we call it plain Jane beer, right? Generic beer.
Yes, absolutely. And the way that we've ranked this album, this is roughly Get the Lead Out. Do you know? Whereas this is Home Tonight. Okay.
There you go. All right. Well, you can't hit a home run every
No.
time. All right, Simon. I'm afraid to hear what you got next.
I feel like you should be. I really, you should be
Well,
pretty.
actually, you already put
Oh,
Nobody's Fault so low.
just
You
wait till
already
I'm doing
destroyed me with
Turbo.
that one. So you can't make it any worse than that. So
Oh, I can, and I'm going to. Right. So at some point, when we're doing these ranking albums, all of us will at some point say, and now we're into the good stuff, and this is the stuff that I really like. I'm not there yet. Right. So
I didn't think so.
my six is Combination. It's just a mess. It's entirely forgettable. Couldn't just can't remember anything whatsoever about it. You remember previously Steven Tyler was in a different room. Now he's on a different continent to the rest of the band, and he's wearing Yves Saint Laurent Burley stain because I'm so damn gaunt, really. Oh, poor,
Can I just say
poor good
that
one
Joe
star.
Perry wrote that lyric, but Steven Tyler classes that as one of the best lyrics that he sang.
Well
And I
done,
must have
Steve.
been with you there, Simon. I'm kind of like, really? It's a bit. But there you go.
No, I will. One thing I will say about combination is I find the guitars less irritating. Something about the guitars, as I'm about to mention in a couple of songs' time. My five is Last Child, Take Me Back to South Tallahassee, Cross Sassafras. I mean, what the heck? What's one of? I don't know. I I just don't know. Again, it sounds out of tune to me. Just I don't know if it's because it doesn't go where I want it to go. They don't make the choices I want them to make. You know, the 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 guitars aren't how I want them to be. Um, I just don't know. I just find it deeply unmemorable. I genuinely do. And I don't like the tone in the guitar solo either. Let's talk about number four, shall we? If Don't think we're at the bit at the songs that I physically like yet, but it would be fair to say that when the dog moves around in the night and wakes me up, all I can hear practically every night for the last week or so is "I'm back." So it must be impinging on my world in some way, shape, or form, mustn't it? Yeah, it really must be. Um, I remember I've listened to this album. I've listened to it in this room. I've listened to it upstairs. I listened to it in the car. It sounds best in the car. Have I mentioned I've got a new car? It sounds good in there. And I've also I listened to it earlier tonight walking the dog. And quite often I've thought to myself, that's the back in the saddle. That's like horsey noises. That's like diegetic sound, isn't it? That's good. I like that. By the time it's doing it towards the end, I just want to fucking kill them. Stop it. It's clever ones. Stop it now. And do you know what? It'd be great if this was like 2.5 minutes long. It'd be great. Get in, get out. Fantastic. But no. Look, it's still going on. It's still playing somewhere, isn't it? Just, just I genuinely tried to like it. I really should like Aerosmith. And the it's me, kids. It's me. I'm sorry. It's me. It's not me. I'm right. Everybody else is wrong.
of course.
I am, Simon, formulating a theory.
I love
Okay.
theories.
You love theories. Okay. I mean, it may be commonly known as utter bullshit, but let's try this. Okay. I'm
Okay.
thinking back to the five classic bands that you hated. And I'm not going to say all of them, okay, because my memory is not even good enough to remember the five you chose. However, okay, I'm beginning to come up with a theory that you like rock. Okay. You like lots of rock. You like lots of metal. You've even like some progressive rock on this show. I'm not convinced you like much rock roll because Aerosmith are a rock roll band. They're not a rock band. I'd say they're a rock roll band. And I think there's a difference between a rock band and a rock and roll band. It's interesting you're saying about the choices they're taking, and it doesn't quite go where you want it to go, and the way that the guitars sound and all of that. That to me, they're loose but they're tight.
Mm.
This is rock and roll. I'm not saying they're dangerous and all that kind of toxic twins bollocks and all that sort of stuff, but there is a kind of devil may careness about it that there isn't necessarily in rock. Because rock has
Mm.
stayed and solid in its function. Or am I just talking bollocks? That's a distinct possibility.
It's always a possibility that you're talking bollocks, but I think you might have hit on something there. There's a looseness to it that when I do like the songs, which I haven't quite got to yet, that I do quite like. Uh, but I think because Aerosmith didn't really hit big here until well into their career, did they?
Yeah.
Long way into their career. And I think by that point you've seen them in Kerrang, and you've seen them wherever you get your and you haven't heard them, and you think, right, they look like I should really like them. They look the part. And then you hear them, and, not what I was expecting, and I'm not sure I like it. But the bands that were referenced at the start, Kiss, Ted Nugent, I like large parts of their catalogues, and I cheerfully missed out Heart there, as you can see. But I do like 70s rock, American rock. But yeah, I think you might have hit upon something there. They're not metal either. They're not straightforward um, classic rock. There's something they go to places that most people that aren't me find interesting, but I just don't.
I find it fascinating that, and there's got to be a connection there that you like the Stones and Aerosmith, you can't get into either band. And a lot of people here anyway have always called Aerosmith kind of like the US's answer to the Rolling Stones. So I think there's some qualities there that just don't connect with you. So whether it's the bluesiness, the kind of raunchy R&B type thing. I don't know. I don't really know what it is. There's a similarity there a little bit. So there's got to be something that the quality of both bands that just not doesn't compute
Yeah,
with you. And that happens, right? There's plenty of
I
bands
can
that I don't
I
like
can
that are similar, and I don't like any of them because there's characteristics of their music that just don't do it for me.
I can understand why people like them, and the longevity. You've got to tip your hat to them, and and the way they came back from their issues and stuff. But I just can't. No,
Yeah.
can't get my head around Aerosmith.
Okay.
Okay, so well, my number six is Last Child, which I know is kind of a lot of people's one of their favourites from this album. I don't dislike it. I'm into territory now where I'm just fully on board. Really, it's a slow groover, but it's a good slow groover. It's a great guitar solo from Brad Whitford here, and I know that this band are all about Tyler and Perry to a lot of people. That's really not the story that's happening here. That's really not the story that's happening. I think Brad Whitford actually has more guitar solos on this album than Perry does. And it's interesting how one gets, because of that kind of glitz and glamour, if you like that kind of thing, gets all the coverage for the other guys over here somewhere. But there you go. But the guitar solo,
Whitford's the better player, I've always
yeah,
thought.
yeah, I think so. Um, the guitar solo's full of kind of little twists and turns. It's almost like he's kind of having a conversation with the rest of the song, responding to the rhythm, responding to the vocal. And I mean, kudos for that lazy clanking cowbell. I mean, we all joke about more cowbell, but seriously, I mean, more cowbell. It's just, there is something about it. And it's a bit of an understated track, but it kind of just has the confidence and the patience to be what it is. I know it was a single, but to me, it's more of a deep cut on this album, but it's one of those albums that kind of gives it a bit of foundation. And I really like it. It's a really good song. Number five is Licking a Promise. I mean, there's great guitar lines that run through the verses of that song, full of character, full of interest. I mean, the chorus might pretty well be kind of three words repeated over and over, but it does the job. And I'm singing it for days after to know. And there's an urgency about the song that, and it only really kind of struck me listening to it in the kind of this form where you're going back and listening to songs maybe more than once and out of the order. It kind of preempts punk almost. You can kind of hear things that would be taken in a few years' time used in his song. Or I can imagine Cheap Trick singing this. It's kind of got that attitude about it. It's a little bit kind of snottier and grittier than Aerosmith often are. But it works for me. And again, the winner for me here is a rhythm section. Hamilton and Kramer doing all the heavy lifting and getting very little credit for it. I think they're tremendous on this album. I really do. And then number four, which I would have probably told you if you just said, name your favourite three or four Aerosmith songs. I'd have said, Back in the Saddle. And here it is at number four on this album. So it clearly isn't as high as I thought it would be, but it's just, for me, not for Simon, it's just so memorable. It's a great kind of mid-page rocker. And I think the vocal from Steven Tyler is just everything it needs to be. It's expressive, it's full-throated, it's utterly abused, and yet still somehow in full control. Some of these notes that he doesn't really hit, let's be honest, as Simon said, he does go, that the voice almost disappears completely. But it all works for me, and you can see him shimmying as he sings this song. I know that's a turn off for a lot of people, but that's what it was all about, really. You know, it was about
Yeah.
kind of shaking the ass and giving it attitude. As an album opener, it does a great job. That kind of slow build into the huge groove before it explodes into the chorus. Same again. I mean, for me, it's Whitford, it's Hamilton, it's Kramer. Everything else that's happening is really good, but those three on this song are just on the money all the way through, intent, and it's so organic. Really, really like it. And I'm not even in the top three yet. Yes, Simon.
Something I meant to mention slash ask about Back in the Saddle. Which guitarist is it that can't shut the fuck up? The one that keeps feel. Oh, I've got to feel something in there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which what's all that about?
I believe it's
That is definitely one of the things I don't like about that song. You know, just kind of like just
okay.
let it play. Go, leave it alone. Let it move. Let it flow. Yeah, yeah.
What can I say? These are the things that I listen out for. I like. That's all
Fair
I
enough.
can kind of tell you. Do you know? I mean, I like this song so much that when I used to play in bands back in the days, this was one of the songs that people would say, what do I want to cover? We did Back in the Saddle because I said, I want to do Back in the Saddle. I loved playing the drums to that song, but I like the song in general. So what can
I
I
think a
tell
lot of
you?
those little fills and noises, I think, were Joe Perry, to be honest. So,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah. All right, my number six is six. My number six. My number six is "Licking a Promise." Uh, these guys do that kind of raunchy, raging, bluesy hard rock really well around this time period, and that's basically what this is. I agree with Steven. The chorus is very basic, but it's damn good and it's memorable. And there's just nasty little guitar licks all over the place. Really good song, could rank higher. You know, number six, you think, oh, but I think there's a whole bunch of songs on this album that are like pretty much equal as far as I'm concerned with, you know, on the enjoyment factor. So that's my number six. Number five is Combination. Pretty crunchy metallic riffing on this song, right? I mean, this is a masher for them. Uh, I love the chorus, and I really like that kind of like little complex jam they do at the end, which I think is really cool. They like kind of turn about face. They do Brad and Joe do this kind of little nifty trade-off thing, and then you get the soloing taking it out. Really cool song. I like it a lot. Yeah, the lyrics are kind of dumb, but who cares? It's like I think it's a cool song. And number four for me could be the perfect bump and grind song. What?
The bit that I described as a bit of a mess.
Yes, I like it
Do you know why that is, Peter?
because I like jamming and you don't.
Oh, it's because we all hear things differently.
That is true. Yes. A wise man once said that, right?
It did.
Yeah, I like the jam at the end of that. But I could totally see how people would think it's just kind of like going all over the place. But me, I dig it because this band didn't do a lot of that. It's not a lot of jamming on any of these albums for the most part. So it's kind of cool to hear it on there. My number four for this round is like I was saying before. To me, I think for Aerosmith, it's the perfect bump and grind song, and that's "Last Child." I mean, just man, that whole groove at the beginning is just awesome. I love the little fiery guitar solo from Brad, and the song is just catchy as all hell. It's like, you know, whenever Last Child comes on, it's like all of a sudden that, you know, it's just so cool. Such a great tune. It's got so much attitude and swagger, which was what they were all about at this time, fueled by all sorts of chemicals and alcohol, right? But they had it, and then when they got sober, they lost it. So whatever. But yeah, that's my number 6, 5, and 4. Take us out, Simon.
Is it me to go into Ted Rogers mode?
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Fantastic. Pete said yes, and he doesn't know what I'm on about. Hey, let's move on.
I'm just
I mean,
going with I'm going with the flow. I'm trying not to interject
I
too much.
cannot believe for a second, Pete, that Dusty Bin did not travel across into the US.
I have
Can't
no idea
believe
who
it.
that is. No.
No,
Really?
of course you do. Everybody knows who Dusty Bin is. I know you're just pretending.
Yes, yes, indeed. Okay, my three, and we're getting towards the ones that I actually do quite tolerate slash like. My three, um, my three is Home Tonight, which you two don't like as much as I do. I can tell. Bear in mind, because I've been listening. Yeah, I really like the vocals. The solo at the end that you loathe so much, Peter. It fades out way too soon. I'm actually invested in that, and then it disappears. Why did you do that? I just love the soft ball or soft bat or whatever it is. I just don't know. But yeah, just that's the only song that I thought, oh, please carry on. Please, give me more. Oh, nope. Everything's gone. Oh, and Amazon said, you like that, so you're going to like the Rolling Stones. No, stop. No, no. Yes, Stephen, you had your hand up. Would you like to speak to the class?
Oh Lord.
Is this the bit where we edit?
Oh, I still
You did
can't
appear to have
I
your
still
hand up.
can't get over that he rated Home Tonight above Nobody's Fault. I still can't. I'll be
Anyway,
having nightmares of that all night tonight.
that's what I'm here for. My two, seeing as Stephen doesn't want to speak, is Licking a Promise. Hey, it's boogie time! Yeah, I can get down with that. I really can. And it's also got the best lyric on the album, which goes roughly na 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 na. Very much the best, most cohesive lyric on the album. And just to really irritate Pete a bit more, the guitar tone on that I really like. Do you know what it reminds me of? Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols. That's who the guitar tone reminds
Oh,
me of.
Wow.
No,
oh, feel the burn.
it genuinely does. Big kind of guitar tone. Yeah, I'm feeling so much better right now. And my one, if I can find where I wrote down a one, is Sick as a Dog. Aerosmith turn into the Quo. Fantastic. We can definitely get down with that. The last 72
I see a
seconds,
pattern here.
the last 72 seconds are really, really good. I very much like it when they quo it out. And yes, the percussion on that one is really, really good. It really is. And it bounces along, and you think, yes, finally, yay, yay. I actually, first time I was starting to make notes, I actually wrote nothing too annoying. And over the months, I've come to yes, it's like the quo. Yay, good quo. No,
Um,
not Beulah quo. No, that would.
Give me so Simon says, give me Aero Boogie and nothing else. Yeah, I guess so. All right.
okay, so yes, I like this album. Just putting that out there. Okay, so number three
Meanwhile,
for
next month
me.
we'll be doing a Foghat album, just so everybody knows, because we'll need to make Simon happy. So
There's
I write
one
the
thought
schedule.
that's album in my collection, and we all know what it is.
I write the schedule. We'll not do the Foghat album.
Fair enough.
Okay, so in theme, Nobody's Fault is my number three. This is another great groove song. I mean, it's down and it's dirty. It's again, this song sounds really simple, but the arrangement is really interesting. It's kind of occasional piano stabs. There's kind of more excellent, if economical, drum fills. Great work on the hi hat. Really great work on the hi hat in this song. Joey Kramer's immense on this album. The vocals are doubled in sections, and in general, there's something going on all the time, and yet somehow it doesn't feel cluttered or overworked. It still feels kind of loose and organic and just kind of happening. And I also really like, and this is kind of me being me, that during the chorus, the rhythm sits on the ride cymbal. It's sitting on that ride cymbal. But unlike so many songs, they don't feel the need to cover up that it's impossible to play the ride cymbal whilst you're doing a fill. It's not just clanking through. It doesn't just continue on as if suddenly he's grown an extra appendage. Do you know? That really, really grates on my nerves because then you go see them live and he can't do it. There's no way. But this has clearly been recorded as he sat there and not just double tracked over the top of it. And it's just a lovely touch. It feels much more organic, much more real, much more rock and roll because of it. Really like that aspect of it. And it's as if this was a band just playing live and being captured. And there was a huge element of that about this album. It was important to Aerosmith at this stage that they sounded like a real rock and roll band, hence the album name and all that kind of stuff. Number two for me is Rats in the Cellar. I mean, there are some great slower and mid-paced songs on Rocks, but I love it when Aerosmith kind of build a head of steam up. And Rats in the Cellar does exactly that. I love the vocal harmonies that run behind the lead vocal. I'm not famed for my love of harmonica, but I love the way that the harmonica solo leads into the guitar solo. They're almost seamless. You almost kind of have to listen for where it goes from one to the other. I like what Joe Perry's doing in this song, and I have been a bit disparaging in places about what he does, but he's on fire in this song. Really, really good. And I love the extended outro. They're just riffing off each other. Kramer and Hamilton again. Such freedom, but such authority. I mean, this to me is Aerosmith at the peak of their powers, and it's my number two. So my number one is Sick as a Dog. I love the kind of the chiming intro, quickly gives way to the main riff of the song, and those long held vocal notes are just fantastic. Yes, Simon?
You're right.
As always, thank you very much. Sometimes you actually notice, but I'm always right. Um, my favourite part is actually the snow rolls. Wow, you see, you've blown me by telling me I was right. I'm totally gone. The snare rolls that kind of punctuate things, just so good. Kramer is saying so much while not doing a huge amount. His accent around the kit are so good. He's stealing the whole show without ever actually sitting in the limelight. And as I say, unusually it's Tyler and Perry that are on bass here, four and six string respectively. I think Tom Hamilton's playing rhythm guitar. None of this makes any sense, but it just works. It's just so good. The guitar solo from Whitford is excellent. It's short, to be fair, but this is just catchy, memorable stuff. Loads of hooks. There's a short, clever chorus. I could listen to this song over and over and not get bored of it. That's the sign of a great song for me. It's simple, but damn, is it effective.
Cool. My number three
That's
is
me.
Back in the Saddle. I mean, it's classic for a reason. A lot of groove. Tyler's screaming up a storm. Big riffs, screaming lead guitar. It's basically got everything. I think out of all of the Aerosmith kind of hits from this time period, I've always liked Back in the Saddle best. Because like some of the other ones I think are all great, you know, Dream On and Sweet Emotion and whatnot. I mean, and they're great songs, but I've heard them way too many times. Back in the Saddle, to me still kind of it's really gutsy and fresh, I think, for me. So that's my number three. My number two is Rats in the Cellar. Terrific, just frantic and completely badass. You know, Tyler's just kind of like spitting venom all over the place, and the guitars are just slashing and nasty, and that's kind of how I like my Aerosmith. It's amazing how like the guitars on this album, even though Jack worked with them for a number of albums, the guitars on this album just have a different, dirty, heavy sound compared to some of the other albums around this time period. I mean, they all sound good, but I don't. There's something about the way the guitars are produced on this album. It's just like it's kicked up a notch. But Rats in the Cellar is just absolutely terrific. And then the correct number one answer is Nobody's Fault. Easy number one for me. I mean, it's so heavy, it's so raunchy. The guitars are like just full throttle all the way through, and Tyler is just like piss and vinegar and just evil motherfucker type of Steven Tyler, right? Which you know, he doesn't do as much anymore in his older age, but back then, man, Yeah, he was pretty badass back then. And this song was covered by a bunch of metal bands, including the Great Testament, who did a very, very fine job on it. So when I was re-listening to this album recently, getting ready for today, I was like, every time Nobody's Fault would come on, I would go and play it again. Got to hear that again. Play it twice in a row, right? It's like I know there's so many other great songs on this album, but for me, that's by far was the easy one. I put that. My number one was like ingrained. It was like, all right, there's no doubt there. My number nine was no doubt there. Everything else in the middle was kind of like, all right, where do I put this? Do I like this better than that one? So it's never easy doing these. When you have an album where like there's so much quality on it, like how do you like kind of rank them and deconstruct this album based on how you prefer them. It's never easy, but although I guess if you don't like the album at all, it's probably pretty easy because you just put stuff anywhere, right? Right, Simon?
Oh no, that is unfair. I think Simon took at least he took 3 months to put this
He did.
ranking
Oh,
together.
to his credit, no,
Dedication.
I wouldn't have listened to an album that I absolutely don't like for 3 months straight. I wouldn't have done that. I would have been like, after like a week or two, I'd be like, the white flag would go up. Like, I'm done. Here's how I'm ranking. I'm not listening to this anymore.
Honestly, you have no idea how often Simon has mentioned to me in passing in recent times, listen to Aerosmith. It really has. He's put the time
Well,
in.
but he
Really
said it
has
perfectly
put the time
before.
in.
How many times did Simon say it in this episode that he really should like this band? It's almost like he was convincing himself that why am I not liking this band? Let me give it another spin. I should love this band. Let me give it another spin. I mean, that's like because that's hard. I've been through that. There are bands that I've had the same thing where I'm like, I know I should like this group. Why? Why is it not clicking? Maybe I just haven't heard it enough. At some point, you get to a certain stage where you're like, all right, I've listened to this 20 times and it's still not sinking in. I just don't like this fucking band, right? It's just it happens. But sometimes you never know because there have been things that I've not really cared for the first listen or two, and then all of a sudden, listen number three or four, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Yeah, I think I'm getting it now. Right. It clearly hasn't really happened with Aerosmith for some, and that's fine. But you never know, right? Sometimes it's just your gut tells you not to give up because your mind is telling you, you should love this band. You should love this band. Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. But it doesn't always work.
Well, one thing that I've done is I listened to it one time. I'm walking down the main road with the dog, thinking, I'm not really enjoying this dog walk. It's not. There's lots of temporary traffic lights and lots of cars. And then I got to my favorite bit of the walk and I thought, right, I'm going to start it again. It's going to be so much better now. Oh, scenery is beautiful. Everything's lovely. I'm much more relaxed, and it's still not working for me.
So Simon, how about this scenario? How about like, and again, I don't know what the pubs are like over there in your neck of the woods, but like, maybe there's a jukebox in the favorite pub that you have, and you look on the jukebox, and there you see like Sick as a Dog and Back in the Saddle and Last Child on the jukebox. You've had a couple pints in you, you go put it in. Do you think you might groove to these songs a little bit at that point?
No.
Okay, I figured I'd try because sometimes a little bit of the alcohol will help matters, but no. Okay.
Do you think,
I
Simon,
think
that
of
the
a pub
journey?
that I go in that actually has a jukebox, but
Oh well, that's true these days
Yeah,
too.
these days it's hard. I know that not a lot of them here have them either, but yeah, that's
Yeah. Do you think, Simon, it's possibly something to do with the journey over here? Now, we were talking about age before we came on here. I was, let me work this out, 14 when Permanent Vacation came out. So I like Permanent Vacation. I'm one of those, I'm probably the only person on the channel that will sit here and tell you, I like Permanent Vacation, I like Pump. Okay. Everything else afterwards, okay, because they really became a parody even of that band, who I understood with hindsight were already a parody of this band. Does that make sense? I still like those albums because they're a time and a place for me. I don't necessarily need to hear Steven Tyler go cow ever again in my entire life. Okay. However, those two albums were my way into Aerosmith. I then went and got things like Pandora's Box, the big box set thing that had greatest hits and rarities and all that. And I fell in love with them through that. I still like those two albums. Don't like anything that came after much. But I then kind of realised that they were something much more kind of substantial before. But I do wonder if the association, certainly in this country, is mainly that kind of as I say, silly vocalist with spangly jackets with things around the microphone, kind of doing all of this and not much more. And I do think a lot of people in this country kind of go Aerosmith, no substance there. And I find the substance in these albums, but I don't know if it colours opinions.
May well do. And obviously they're best known in this country for Don't Want to Miss a Thing, aren't they?
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the big schmaltzy power ballads are really, you can't really defend them, I have to say.
I
Do
find
you know?
most of those hits from the late 80s and the 90s just absolutely dreck. I mean, I can't even listen to them. You know, Martin Popoff and I did a show a couple weeks ago where we ranked like the 80s and then the 90s albums from Aerosmith and a bunch of other bands we put together. And I more like, you know, Pump and Permanent Vacation and what's the other big one? I can't think of the name of it.
Get the grip.
Get a Grip, yeah. You know, all of those, if you take like all of the kind of rock and deep cuts on those albums, you put them together, that's a pretty decent Aerosmith album. I can't listen to the singles, the hits. I just can't stomach them. The ballads and all the kind of poppy stuff. Ugh. And because they were played to death here, and I didn't like them. I could care less at their hits. I don't like the songs in general. But you know, there are some decent tracks on those albums. But for me, I have no use for those records because you know, what do I like, two, three songs on each one of them? So like I say, take them all out and put them in one album together. That's a pretty good Aerosmith album. But you know, as a whole, God, don't
Yeah,
want
see,
to.
they kind of,
Janie's got a gun, and
yes, I like
crying.
stuff like that. They landed in an era and a period where I liked bands that were doing that. I mean, they became followers rather than trendsetters. They were a trendsetter at this stage. They were kind of leading the pack in big news, and they were probably the US's biggest rock band at this stage.
Yeah.
But when they came back for Permanent Vacation, I mean, I don't like Double Mirrors at all, to be fair. I know a lot of people kind of have a bit of a soft spot for that. They landed in a period where they were doing that kind of glam metal, glam rock sort of thing. You guys all want to call it hair metal, so I will join along. And I liked that scene, so they fit in there. But they weren't even one of the best bands in that scene. And therefore, I like Permanent Vacation and I like Pump because it landed in a time where I was into that scene massively, and I still do like all of those kind of bands. But yeah, I can understand why people who loved this band and knew this band and then heard those albums kind of go, oh wow, what is this? Because it is almost like a parody. As I say, they've moved almost into kind of laughing and pointing at themselves, but making millions of dollars while they're doing so. So
Big bucks. Yeah.
who's, who's right or wrong? Do you know?
Well, I think the perception here was always that you know, they got clean and sober, they got off the drugs and the alcohol, and then they forgot how to actually write songs that sound like Aerosmith. So they had to go get all these outside writers who were used to writing hits, and all of a sudden, boom, Aerosmith is on top of the world again, but maybe doing and making all this money with material that's not really their own and kind of sound forced. So the old classic Aerosmith fans kind of felt that way. But I know a lot of people here who grew up with those albums and never you weren't born yet when the 70s albums came out. So they didn't have that reference point. So they grew up with Permanent Vacation and Get a Grip and Pump and all that kind of stuff. So to them, that's the greatest Aerosmith stuff ever because that's what they really know. And oh yeah, and the 70s stuff is cool, but this is what I remember. So that's this whole perception. We've talked about it before, where albums and eras that you grew up with, that's the stuff that you're loyal to, right? And it's hard to get out of that mindset because this is what is ingrained in your soul and your mind and your in everything because you spent all the time and the hours and the money invested in these bands and you saw them live during those periods. So that anything that's outside of that, once you maybe kind of backed off a little bit, that's not quite as good, right? It's not the same. So I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear Walk This Way, if it's in my head, I'll be honest and say I hear the version that Simon loathes, which is the Run DMC version. Because that was the first time I heard Aerosmith. It was the first time it made me think, I could quite like this band. I mean, I actually don't mind Run DMC in general, to be fair. But it kind of made me think, hold on. This band that I've read about and, as Simon says, seen pictures in Kerrang and various things, but not actually heard until right now, could be worth investigating. Then Dude Looks Like a Lady followed not all that long afterwards. And to me, that was the kind of stuff I was listening to back then. And it all fell in place. And then I very quickly went backwards at that point and kind of thought, oh, okay, I missed the bus because, well, I was 3 when this album came out, so I clearly missed the bus, you know. But yeah, it is, as you say, as we often say, where you come in a band, you can hold an esteem that doesn't necessarily meet with everybody else's thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And here we are an hour in, and it's still fairly light out behind Simon there. See that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't do that here.
I would open my blind behind me and show you how light it is here, but you would just see my bald head. Even more than you do now, anyway.
Well, everybody watching, you know the drill. Down in the comments, rank the songs on Rocks as you like them. And Steven, you're going to give us a little treat into no what?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what's coming up next show.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
Oh yeah, I thought
I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten. I want to remind the viewers of their homework. They have something to do.
I think I'm in a daze. I think that's what's happened here. I think I'm in a daze.
We know where that half drank pint is going after this, right?
Yeah, not in me.
Down the drain.
Not in me. I did smell it again. I'm thinking I was obviously wrong. I'm not wrong. There you go. Sorry, Pete. I interrupted. That was most rude of me. No, yes, in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be doing an AOR melodic rock show, which we've not done for quite some time. So we are going to be doing the classic, which is going to be Ready or Not by Lou Gramm. We're going to be doing the underground classic, which is Last of the Runaways by Giant. And we're going to be doing they made an AOR album, okay? And we're going to be doing Slade for that one, the classic UK rock band that most people in the US know because Quiet Riot covered them. And we're going to be doing the album with 2 names. We're going to be doing the amazing Kamikaze Syndrome, or as it was then released in the US, not actually quite exactly at the same time. It was also quite awfully named Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply. Oh, really? So that's what we're going to be doing in 2 weeks' time.
Cool. AOR Melodic Rock Fun here in 2 weeks on the UK Connection, and hopefully we've recovered from Simon's ranking of rocks by then. I can't wait to rewatch this episode because I don't think I've laughed. I don't think I've laughed as hard on an episode on Sea of Tranquility in the 10 years we've been on the channel. So,
do you know something, Simon? I think he's ridiculing you. He hasn't ignored you this week, but he wants to laugh at you. That's terrible. That's shock. You know what? This is workplace bullying that's happening here.
If anybody wants me, I want to be in the comments.
We'll see next week. He's appearing on Grant's Rock Warehouse and the Contrarians. And
yeah, do you know what they're doing next week on Grant's Rock Warehouse? They're doing the album ranking of Aerosmith.
I believe Honking on Hobo is really good.
That's how I'll keep Simon here, right? I'll go to all the competing channels and be like, all right, if you ever want Simon on your show, he loves these bands, please ask him to come on, right? It's Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Aerosmith, The Who, The Kinks, you know.
If you want someone who's anything about heart, he's your man.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. But don't ask him about Magnum or no.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will say, in case folks have missed it, Simon wrote an incredible review of the new Demon CD, which is hold on a second, I got it right here, which is this one, brand new, Invincible, on our webzine. Please go check it out. It's not only a great album, but it's a great review from Simon, and yeah, he's showing he still has it with the writing stuff.
Absolutely. I'm going to go off at a tangent again before we finish. Is anybody else out there in the UK ordering CDs on a pre-order from a variety of different places, only for them not to turn up? Because I ordered that Demon CD at least a month and a half ago.
Wow, you still haven't gotten it? Jeez.
So I haven't gotten it. No, and I am varying who I'm ordering from because I've had the same issue with the FM album. A variety of things in recent times. It is absolute nonsense, and I'm ending up having to wait for eBay sellers to stick them up on eBay. Amazon, I'm getting let down, but it's nonsense. Absolute nonsense this year. I'm already doing the end of year show when we do our pet hates. I am actually not enjoying buying CDs this year because it's such hard work.
Shouldn't be that way. They want our money, right? Deliver the products.
Yep. I pre-ordered 2 things from EMP. One was FM. Oh man, I can't remember what the second one was. And I had been on pre-order for 3 weeks. And we'd been on pre-order prior to the release. 3 weeks after release, I had to email them and say, my CDs? And they went, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't have those yet. So they're putting up pre-orders for CDs that they may or may not get.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not
At least two of those could be a Frontier's problem, couldn't it?
Yes, I would imagine that all these sites are putting them up with the best intentions, to be fair, EMP included. And what's happening is they're being let down by the labels of their suppliers or distributors, whatever it may be, because there's not actually the amount of product getting made that people want to buy. Because Frontier's releases, for example, they're not alone. If you go look for them a year down the line, they're all 3 times the price that they were when you tried to buy them at the start. Because they're actually, and I get why, because you don't want to make hundreds of thousands of copies to sell
Oh
six
yeah, they
thousand,
only print a certain
I
amount, and then once
understand
they're
that.
done, they don't repress anything. Yeah, it's
Absolutely. So,
crazy when you look at the Frontier
yeah,
stuff. It's like a year after an album comes out, it's like it's out of print. It's like you got to, if
yeah.
you
I mean,
want
I
it, you can get a
suppose
copy for $40. Yeah,
as a business model, it kind of makes sense if you sell out of 75% of the titles you release, but you're not going to lose any money, are you? So,
right.
I do get it, and I feel sorry for everybody, but mainly I feel sorry for me.
You should, right? You should. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes, I'm trying to support physical product and bands and all that kind of stuff. I'm finding it really difficult. But there you
Sorry.
go. Anyway, sorry, that's a complete tangent.
No, no,
I'll
but
do that.
it comes up all the time. So, and by the way, it didn't new Black Country Communion came out yesterday, right?
Mine has shipped. Haven't got it yet, but it has shipped.
Okay,
And
I
that's
mean,
because I bought it from an eBay seller.
there you go. Sometimes that's the easiest, right? The path of least resistance.
Yeah.
So
Riot, the new Riot was another one. I had that pre-ordered somewhere, binned the pre-order, and went and bought it off eBay.
it's good. I like the new Riot.
Yeah, I really like it. Really like
Riot.
it. Vocals are fantastic.
What is the correct way to say it? Is it Riot 5 or Riot V?
I say Riot V,
Okay.
but I don't know. Is it the fifth lineup of the band? So is it Riot 5?
I don't
I
know.
don't
I
know.
just want to call him Riot. I don't want this damn nonsense at the end of it. V5.
Yeah,
I just want to
to
call
be
it Riot.
fair, it was interesting when George reviewed him on the review crew because he called him Riot. And then he knows that I say, you mean Riot V. So he actually said, for the pedantic people out there, Riot 5. And I was like, yeah, thanks, George. That's me. Cheers. You're
Uh, so there you have it,
Anyway,
everybody. AOR Melodic Rock Trio coming at you in 2 weeks. We'll see you next time from the UK Connection. Rocks, rules. Simon knows. And we'll see you next time. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Stay away from the chocolate stout, everybody, because Steven hates it. You will too. And for Steven Reid and Simon Bray, I am Pete Pardo. That's going down the drain. We'll see you next time here on the UK Connection. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you tomorrow morning ranking the albums of Nantucket. Grant Arthur will be back in the house, and we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.